talk hockey first.
All right, man. I kicked off Friday. Go ahead and lead us off, man.
Yeah, so, I mean, this was just another classic game. I feel like all these games have been super close, super intense, and that Florida crowd was juiced up.
We're gonna go to the Panthers Rangers game. Okay.
It was buzzing. Buzzing. And they just seem like in control. All their wins, they've just been in control. Even when they're only up a goal, it just seems like, okay, they still have this under control, and you never felt like the Rangers were gonna do anything crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah, they won 2-1. They got the Rangers got a last minute goal to make things a little interesting, but in the end, the Panthers they just get shots up, man. They did not want to take this to Game 7. They said, hey, let's close this thing out tonight, and they did it. I mean, Barkov, to check, right? But both those guys, they're just putting up shots left and right, really making it difficult for the Rangers goalkeeper, which I keep on. His last name's Terseskin.
Yeah, it's so hard to say.
It's so hard.
I don't even try to butcher it. For sake of the viewers, I don't even try to butcher his name, but I just call him the goalie. I just call him the goalie.
The goalie, yeah.
Absolutely.
I can't. But he was doing everything in his power to get the Rangers within striking distance so they could tie it. But in the end, it's just, and what makes it tough is that on the other side of things, Bobrovsky, he was doing his thing, man. Those are two goalies that are just in the form of their lives right now. And it's hard to get goals in between those two guys. So you can just really tell. I mean, this was a very, very even matchup. And the Panthers, they just, this easily could have gone to 7 games.
I think so.
This easily could have gone to 7 games. It just came down to small details.
I think New York giving up Game 5 in New York to Florida was a huge turning point for this Florida Panthers team. But I made some notes about this game earlier today, and you and I both, we kind of went back and forth on how we thought the series was going to go. I kept calling it a battle of the giants because you got two powerhouse teams. Every game in this series was only determined by one goal. Yep. So that's how closely matched these games were. The only game that was even remotely lopsided, and it really wasn't, was Game 3. And that was when New York was favored predominantly more than they had been any other part of the series. Yeah. Excuse me. But I think overall, a 4-2 win for the Florida Panthers. It started out, they come in and they lose games 2 and 3. So they kind of struggled in the first 3 games. They won Game 1, they lose games 2 and 3, and then they come back to win 3 straight. And they made some corrections. And like I said, the upset against New York in New York's own backyard, I think really was a turning point for this series. And I think there was no looking back after that point. So gotta say for Florida, congrats on your win, and best of luck to you in the Stanley Cup Finals. I think we're going to see some great hockey, and I think we're going to talk about, obviously we've got to talk about the Oilers and the Stars next. And I'll just lead into it. Yeah. I watched this last night, and I've obviously been a big proprietor of Edmonton going into this postseason playoffs, kind of season. And Edmonton they've done what they needed to do. They showed up last night. Connor McDavid. Someone say Connor McGregor. Connor McDavid. We're gonna talk about him later. We're gonna talk about him later.
Talk about him.
Connor McDavid, who I've name dropped a handful of times over the last few weeks. This is his 6th year with the Oilers. Hasn't been to a Stanley Cup, yet. So for him to continue to excel, very huge. I like this. I like this series. I've liked watching the Oilers. Are they a match for Florida? We'll worry about that when we talk about some predictions a little later on. But I think this ended up being a very, very good scored game. Edmonton, I think, did this fairly easily. But it's kind of looking at the same thing as Florida. You look at the last 2 games between these Stars and Oilers teams, and they both are 2-1, 3-2 games, right? So just, again, a margin of 1 goal.
Yeah.
Right? So it's crucial that when we talk about this in a minute, but it's crucial that Edmonton, obviously congrats to Edmonton as well for going and progressing into the Stanley Cup Finals. Going to have a hell of a time fighting this Florida Panthers team. Yeah. But great job, Connor. Great job, Edmonton. I hope you guys continue to impress me, and I'm excited to see what happens. But I'll throw the puck over on your side, man. What do you guys say about it?
This is a legacy-changing moment for Connor McDavid.
I agree.
For all the accolades he has and for all the accomplishments he has, scoring goals, assisting, points, all that good stuff, he needed to take his team to the Cup Finals at some point. Or else you're going to have to question, okay, is he really the guy that we think he is? And he basically laid dick on that game. He basically said, let's close it out. It was very ironic. Both these games, the Panthers, Rangers, and Stars, Oilers, they kind of happened the same way. The team that was going to close them out, the team that was up 3-2, scored, two goals. And then that's basically it. They controlled the game. Connor McDavid scored that really early goal in the first quarter.
Yeah, it was in the first 3 minutes.
Yeah, something ridiculous like that. And then he assisted, I believe, in the second quarter, so they're up 2-0. But it was a close game throughout. And then the Stars get a last-minute goal, 2 minutes left. And so, Edmonton, I am surprised. See, I knew what they were capable of. But the Stars, it seemed like after they scored 3 goals in 3 minutes, they were never the same. I don't know what happened to them. I don't know if, before they were taking steroids and now they got off the steroids, now they're not scoring. I don't know what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
But
that's a good point. I actually didn't really think of it like that. While we're on that topic, I'm going to step back one more second. There was something I was going to say about the Florida Rangers game since you brought up the scoring kind of issue there. Is the Rangers crickets all game, 3 periods. The Florida Panthers come out, they score in the first, I want to say 4.5 minutes, and then rest of period 1, nothing. All of period 2, crickets.
0.
And then finally New York kind of says, I'm going to score a goal here, ties it up 1-1, and then Florida says, nope, not today. We're gonna end this now. So they end up going up 2-1. But it's just weird looking at how these scoring runs go. But back to you, man. I didn't want to take from your thunder there, but it is interesting to see these teams that they're down and their backs against the wall, and they come back and they score 2 goals, 3 goals, and then still not enough, or it's just enough to barely win by 1. It's just kind of crazy.
I think when it comes to hockey, there's more sense of urgency than say basketball or even baseball, because in hockey, it's totally feasible to go down 3-1 and you can win the series. Hockey is just I love the sport, but it's such a weird sport.
It is.
You can score 3 goals in the first quarter, and then the other team can score 3 goals in the second quarter, just basically, tie that thing up. It's so weird, but that's why we love it.
Yeah,
that's why we love it.
It's definitely an interesting sport. It's a sport that when you go down, like we said, you go down 3-1, it is hard to come back from that, because if the team you're playing is just on fire and they're ready to close you out, you have to play lights out to come back from a 3-1 deficit, especially in a playoff postseason scenario.
Yeah.
Right. So as opposed to a regular season game where you could be down 3 goals in period 1, and then you just light your ass on fire and you go balls to the wall, periods 2 and 3, and you end up going 7-3. I saw it with the Avs 3 years ago. They were down by 4 in the first period. They were actually playing the Edmonton Oilers at this time. I had my buddy Ryan with me. I was still back in Kansas City. They were down 4-0. The Avs come back to win 7-4. 7 unanswered goals. It can happen. It's one of those things that you can see.